And as we know, and this is not me saying it, this is what Boston said. Police sergeant said Mohammed paid for cover-up paper shots. Ricardo Fagundes murder. And more recently,
we refresh our memories of these matters. So in November 2011, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, brought to the attention of its members several jurisdictions, including Guyana, with significant strategic deficiencies in their AML-CFT regime, with a view.
And I think this was in response to an article by Christopher Ram, where we talk about consequences that will follow based on the sanctions. And here is Nandalal trying to play smart, trying to throw dust in our eyes.
It is also public knowledge that the central bank has indicated publicly that it has rescinded the license that was granted to the Mohammeds to operate a camp.
Engagement where 200 experts scrutinize our legislation, our policies, our structures, our commitment, our effectiveness. We were questioned for 2 days, and at the end of the process, we receive a clean bill of health. Our AML, that CFT, receive a clean bill of health. This is our current status as certified by authorized regulatory.
The permanent secretary has since tendered her resignation from both the government and from the People's Progressive Party, where she was elected recently to its central committee. But more importantly, the Honorable Dr. Ashni Singh, Minister,
that the permanent secretary made Toussaint Thomas use her office to facilitate contracts. Now we are linking Thomas and the Mohammeds. I know that one of the contracts that the Mohammeds got was to build a new fire station, a fire service headquarters along Church Avenue. Could that be one?
Welcome back to the flight. Hit that subscription button, buddy, and stay updated with everything that's trending in Guyana and the diaspora. Thanks.
will have dire consequences for Guyana's financial system and will threaten our financial system. To those who are making those statements, I say that they are premature and they are reckless, because there is no basis upon which those statements can be made. Guyana's financial system and AML CFT architecture just receiving a clean bill of health by the authorized agency, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. Now, I also want to deal with the maker of those statements. So, the opposition came out first and they said that the disclosures will have a serious impact on Guyana's financial sector. First of all, I want to point to the measures that Guyana has taken since those disclosures, because it is important to look at the actions that are taken when such disclosures are made. The permanent secretary has since tendered her resignation from both the government and from the People's Progressive Party, where she was elected recently to its central committee. But more importantly, the Honorable Dr. Ashni Singh, Minister of Finance, within hours dispatched a letter to the Treasury of the United States requesting a great volume of information that would assist Guyana in launching a probe into these allegations. This was followed almost simultaneously with the Commissioner General, Mr. Godfrey Stacia, immediately writing his counterpart in the Inland Revenue Service of the U.S. requesting another volume of information that the Guyana Revenue Authority intends to use in its investigation of the allegations made in relation to evasion of taxes. So, within hours, the government of Guyana reacted and dispatched requests to the relevant agencies within the U.S. government seeking information that they obviously have at their disposal based upon their disclosures, which information and or evidence will be used by the state agencies in Guyana in pursuing investigations into the allegations made. It is also public knowledge that the central bank has indicated publicly that it has rescinded the license that was granted to the Mohammeds to operate a cambio. So these are serious and drastic steps that were taken with great promptitude and immediacy by the government of Guyana to demonstrate its commitment to fight transnational crime, financial crime, and money laundering type of activities. One of the issues that we were adjudged on was the government's commitment. I'm speaking at the CFATF level. One of the platform upon which we were adjudged was the government's commitment and the state's commitment through all its agencies, including the judiciary, the law enforcement agencies, the financial sectors, etc. The commitment to ensure that Guyana's financial system is protected and is safe. There was no evidence whatsoever that there was a lack of such a commitment from Guyana and all the sectors. None at all. And we were scored heavily in that regard. Persons do not know, and perhaps we should be making these more public, but we have a total of 187 cases pending in the criminal justice system in relation to money laundering type offenses. 187 cases pending. Now I had to explain to the plenary that we do not control the speed at which these cases are heard and determined. But you can't fault us for not filing the cases and anxiously ready, or being in a state of readiness to prosecute. So we have 187 of those cases pending. We were able to show that we confiscated, I think, 3 aircrafts, 1 luxury yacht, and a ship, all involved in drug trafficking offenses, and persons were charged and in most of the cases convicted. The point I am making is that one can't fault Guyana for its lack of attempts and its commitment to deal with organized crime across borders. Hence, we have a menu of amendments to our extradition laws currently pending in the National Assembly. All these things are connected. They are connected. So we are also forfeiting assets that are deemed to be the proceeds of crime or are connected to the conduct of criminal activities. I say all of that in my narrative in order to establish that if, when Guyana's system will be reviewed again, you will have firm evidence of firm action taken by the government in response to the type of disclosures that we have had from the United States of America. The Vice President, speaking on behalf of the government, has made it very clear, and I wish to reiterate that position here. Anyone who violates the laws of this country will be subject to the legal system. If they violate the laws of another country, then they will have to face the consequences of those violations. Of course, they are entitled to due process. They are entitled to all the facilities that the rule of law accords them. And as a government, it's our duty to ensure that Guyanese receive those benefits, but they must face the consequences of their actions. But I found it slightly hypocritical that suddenly the APNU AFC is concerned about our financial system. I find it hypocritical because many of you would recall what they subjected this country to and what they subjected the financial system of this country to when they had a one-seat majority in the opposition between 2011 and 2015. Because I was the Attorney General and I was in that parliament and I lived through the travails and the tribulations that they engineered, and the damage that they have done because of their political postures to the financial system. And as I was reflecting upon it, I made some notes which I want to share with you. And if you will bear with me, it's a little lengthy, but it is important sometimes that we refresh our memories of these matters. So in November 2011, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF, brought to the attention of its members several jurisdictions, including Guyana, with significant strategic deficiencies in their AML-CFT regime, with a view to encouraging the expeditious rectification of the identified strategic deficiencies. The CFATF, in conjunction with Guyana, developed an action plan with identified targets, dates, to address the strategic deficiencies that existed in its national architecture to combat money laundering and the financing of terrorism. So in November 2011, as the year that we went to the elections and they won their one-seat majority and we became a minority government, the same time CFATF said, look, there are a number of countries in the Caribbean and you have strategic deficiencies. In terms of Guyana, they came to Guyana and they identified those deficiencies and they worked out a plan to work with Guyana to correct those deficiencies. On May 29, 2013, CFATF issued a statement noting that Guyana had failed to make sufficient progress in addressing its significant strategic AML-CFT deficiencies, including certain legislative reforms. The statement, however, mentioned that Guyana introduced an amendment bill into the parliament to address the deficiencies, and CFATF encouraged Guyana to urgently approve and implement these legislative amendments. So we took a bill to the parliament. A bill that would have addressed the deficiencies identified, but we were not controlling the parliament. And the bill was left there for a very long time because the opposition, with a one-seat majority, refused to support the bill. We explained over and over again the damage that this will do to the financial system of the country. We explained over and over again that this has nothing to do with politics, that this is simply implementing recommendations which Guyana must implement to protect its legal system. Yet the opposition refused and used this as a bargaining political chip.
One love, Delta9 family. Welcome back to the flight. Sanctions have far-reaching implications. Very far-reaching implications, as the AG just pointed out. Far-reaching implications into the history of the government that might skin up a lot of people. A lot of people know that naming calling, name might call and might find themselves in a lot of trouble if this goes all the way. That's the bird whistles I hear going off right there. Because if things supposed to start since 2013, but this is 2024, there's almost 12 years now in the history we're talking about there. So there's both governments. But we gotta ask ourselves, why we gotta go back 10 years or more for talk about sanctions that is dealing with an investigation that only run for 24 months? And the 24 months is dealing with one particular party in government. Like we gotta ask ourselves, why we being diverted from these things that are going to cause a big rift in the country if swept under the rug. Remember, something this big will never be able to just sweep under the rug and just go away. And if that happen, then we gotta know that somebody paying for Paul. And it might not be Peter. It might not be Peter that paying for Paul. It might be the whole entire nation that is gonna pay to make sure that certain persons don't pay the piper, allegedly. So we gotta ask ourselves, for sanctions that is going on in 2024, why are we now dealing with things from 2013? When the US is saying, look, we investigate y'all from 2022. And this is what we find, and this is who we sanctioning, and we got other people, other officials, and guess what? Other human rights violation. We ain't talking about the other officials. We ain't talking about the human rights violations that happened in them 24 months there. But we're going back to 2013 to deal with something that if we deal with we gotta ask ourselves if it's even gonna affect anything that the US talking about in 2022. But you heard it directly there from the AG. We're gonna hear now from the top cop, and he's gonna expose the fact that, look, you see this same human rights violation allegedly that went down with this paper sharks case allegedly. That's one of the things them that bring down the sanction. That's a part of one of the sanctions. But guess what? We can let the top cop expose it and give his insights on it, because with his caliber of experience and his many years of service at some of the highest ranks in the police force, his insights is very valuable. We're going to hear from Top Cop Slow and Conway, and they're going to decode the connections that allegedly might lead to the paper shards case that bringing down part of what's going on with these sanctions here on these persons and at a whole, the nation.
And I think this was in response to an article by Christopher Ram, where we talk about consequences that will follow based on the sanctions. And here is Nandalal trying to play smart, trying to throw dust in our eyes. And I'm going to read part of the article. It said, Nandalal, however, boasted that Guyana's AML architecture is stellar, and evidence of this is a clear bill of health by the AML/CFT regional regulation body, the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force, CFATF. And here's what it's going to say. Guyana just went through a test, an evaluation exercise by the internationally organized agency for the region, that is CFATF. The Guyana Financial System and AML.CFT architecture acquitted itself well after two-year grilling and interrogative security and detailed examination, which included a 2-day face-to-face engagement where 200 experts scrutinized our legislation, our policies, our structures, our commitment, our effectiveness. We were questioned for 2 days, and at the end of the process, we received a clean bill of health. Our AML-CFT received a clean bill of health. This is our current status as certified by authorized regulatory agency for this region. What nonsense. You give an impression that this conference that they went to in Trinidad recently, I think our big posse went there, that in 2 days, Guyana was the focus. 200 experts scrutinize the face to face and come up and give us a clean bill of health. Imagine that. And this thing was that what they went to was before the announcement by the US. It was before the US announced. And I'm certain now that if they're privileged to this US sanctions, they're gonna change their mind. We no longer get no clean bill of health. So nonetheless, that you get clean bill of health by the Caribbean people, the anti-money laundering stroke control of financing of terrorism, that they give Guyana a clean bill of health. And I'm saying the clean bill of health was before the United States made the pronouncement, the sanction. So it joined us in the eye that we get clean bill of health. I'm certain if that organization where they said 200 experts scrutinize our legislations, our policies, our structures, our commitment, our effectiveness, we were questioned for 2 days, and at the end of the process, we receive a clean bill of health. Imagine that. And then after that conference, the United States say, hey, no, sanctions not only on private citizens, but on government officials. And they say there are many more officials who are involved in corruptions and anti-money laundering things. So I know what the Nandala are trying to do. You run with breakneck speed, but you're going to break your neck. Because we saying that is not right.
Well, once you get a clean bill of health, prior to this sanction, the next type of examination now is a post-mortem examination to determine the cause of death. Because none of them can drink poison and all sort of thing. Post-mortem examination. And let me say this, again, students, you got to understand that in the release by the U.S. Treasury Department and in the press conference there, the statement by the U.S. ambassador, they spoke about the human rights violation, but in the sanction, none was mentioned. They spoke about human rights violation, and none was mentioned. And as we know, and this is not me saying it, this is what Boston said, police sergeant said, Mohammed paid for cover-up paper shots, Ricardo Fagundes murder. And more recently, a person who was a close associate of the Mohammeds, known as Guyanese critic, he came on a program and made similar allegation about Mohammed, the younger Mohammed, involvement in paper shots murder, which led to a lawsuit, file a lawsuit against critic. Well, critic, they are not going to come to the Harlem lawsuit filing against him, brother. Because Simona Brooms want $450 million. I see you make statements say that you didn't know that the thing would have had such a devastating impact on our words. And if I'm paraphrasing, as you didn't file a whole set of money, you want a whole set of money from you. And then you get, recently you see Bork want $150 million from you. Talk critic, we don't know what's going to happen. But everybody's suing you, man. Everybody's suing you just now. Even Sue can sue you just now. Everybody's suing you. So let me see, because they talk about human rights violation. And I know, apart from that paper shots murder, there have been allegations of human rights violation against many police, including a particular police who is said to have been involved in many killings over the years. One particular man who is closely associated to the PPP. They say he killed Awidis. Them roadman can know who we're talking about. His last name was Gardner, we can't remember his first name, Awidis. They say he shoot and kill Kevin Andrews on the East Bank at Demerara. They say he shoot and kill the Crescent Cycle Store trio. Well, there's only two died, one survived. So the information is there. So when they're talking about human rights violation, one if is all that they're talking about what they did to the people at Mocha. All the animals, the livestock destroyed. Those things are human rights violation. And there are so many other human rights violations. Getting people in lock up with feces and all of these stuff. Those are violations of human rights. And one of the organizations, I don't think I mentioned the Guyana Human Rights Association, they too might be silent in all of this. So what are the human rights violations that the U.S. government is referring to? We would like to know. Questions should be asked. Questions should be asked. There are so many. There are so many that you see it in the news and then it dies down. So let me wait and see what are those violations. And then you then remember they also said that the permanent secretary made Toussaint Thomas use her office to facilitate contracts. Now we are linking Thomas and the Mohammeds. I know that one of the contracts that the Mohammeds got was to build a new fire station, a fire service headquarters along Church Avenue. Could that be one of those contracts they are referring to? And here, let me say this. This thing is open, you know. A lot of contracts are being awarded to people who don't have any track record in construction. Statement. That's Kashif and Shanghai and the It's and Jam people. The same Mohammed. You got same critic. A man got almost $1 billion contract, the Tipui company, of which he's the principal. $1 billion. And here this further. These contracts must get cabinet approval. So how are they going to share information with the government and cabinet? They are complicit. Because in order for people to be awarded that type of contract with that type of money, in the case of the school with statement and the highway, initially it was 330 something million or something like that. And then they got another 120 something million. In the case of Tipui, it's 800 and something million dollars. And then you had in case of the fire service, I'm not sure what is the dollar amount, but a lot of money being awarded to people who ain't got no track record. So therefore the whole process is corrupt. And the Americans, the Treasury Department alluded to that. Well, not only alluded, they mentioned that in the statement. The powers of a permanent secretary to tell people about bids. In other words, insider trading. Tell them bid for this contract, bid so much. And that is what is being alleged. And we sit down. They talk about passports. And as we know, or you may not know, but police, the immigration department controls the passport. The immigration department in Guyana is a department of the Guyana Police Force. The commissioner of police in Guyana is the chief immigration officer. And the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Home Affairs is the person who will be responsible for budgeting for passport and all of that. So when the U.S. Treasury Department accusing her of being, as we would say, runnings with passport, you have to look forward and see what is going on. And talking about passport is a disgrace in relation to the retrogression now of the passport office. Say what you want to say. Blame the coalition how much you want to blame them. That is one of the things they had sorted out, that regularized under the Ministry of Citizenship, headed by former Commissioner Winston Felix. You could have gone in there and you would have got your passport within 1 week. You ain't got to talk to nobody. That was routine. You had an arrangement. If you wanted expedited passport, that means you want to get it the same day. You paid an extra money. Officially, you get your receipt and you get your passport the same day. Now, hundreds and hundreds of people lining up there when the morning comes to get passport. And then they tell you, well, the number to be dealt with on that particular day has been reached. You got to go and come again. So if you come from Essequibo, you come from Linden, you come from Timbuktu, you come from wherever, that was the system. And they don't want to admit these things. They don't want to. A situation like that.
Behind every great fortune, there's a crime. I try to make sure. This is Paper Sharks a few weeks before he died. And again, this is purported to be Paper Sharks. In a voice note, Paper Sharks is the person that Bascom accused Hazardine Mohammed of. And this is what the libel case is about. Bascom was an investigator in that case. He came out after himself finding himself in some kind of problem and suggest that it was a setup by the Mohammeds. He started speaking out as it relates to the investigation and Azadeen Mohammed being a suspect in the murder of Paper Shards. This is said to be the voice of Paper Shards, and who knows Paper Shards would be able to say it.
Yeah, nobody like the man, by the man hurt me to the core, by the man do me something, by boss man, the man send police by me. But 10 fucking time now. Embarrass me family. Send police a search with drugs, send police with this, and soak up a care with this, that, this, da. You know what I mean? And he expect that fucking people ain't gonna forget he. You know how much thing I just line up, hey? Call me boss, don't do nothing without me, you know. But you know what? It's disrespectful to fucking me and to a lot of fucking people. Immortal condor.
So, my experience now with the Mohammeds and what everybody's seeing in the world, I can't say they could dispute that if it is Paper Shards' voice. You understand? Like, I'm looking at it. Like, what is post about me if the older Mohammed can get fucking smelly smell for put something about me. I'm like, them is them kind of people. Hello? 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 This person me black just for stupidity because they call quite a few times, but then you know, you got black people, you understand? So Clifton Messiah is asking, why were they? The family has been accused of drug smuggling. Clifton Messiah is asking, why were they to operate with impunity all the years? Now finding oil in Guyana might be their worst nightmare, as the U.S. Justice Department will be looking at them. Well, I can tell you, one of their things that they've been able to get with, well, they didn't fuck wrong the right body. They fuck wrong a man, they fuck wrong find out. Who's living life for the on squad. And a man called for trying to tarnish me. A man with a fucking was walk around with hair upon his head looking like this. No. You serious? You realize the fucking Bible laugh? If his ego is goddamn running. I name fucking Igor.
She's ready. Stay ready.
Mr.
The ultimate male supplement. Men's total wellness formula. Packed with essential nutrients for men's health.
She'll call you Mr. C.
This is Paper Shards a few weeks before he died. And again, this is purported to be Paper Shards. In a voice note, Paper Shards is the person that Bascom accused Azadeen Mohammed of. And this is what the libel case is about. Bascom was